In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a working LEGO bowling alley. This mini LEGO bowling alley has a lot of the same functions as my larger one did. And after receiving a lot of comments to make a LEGO bowling alley tutorial, it's finally here. So let's take a look at the machine and then a tutorial. Upon lowering the pin setter, we can release the pins. Now we can bring that back up, grab a ball, and bowl. So close. So now we can drop this back down, pick up those two pins, and sweep. Now we can drop those two pins back down and bowl again. Now we can release these and sweep again. Then if we turn this around, we can remove this panel and grab our pins, and they go right back up top. Then we can put that panel back on and set the bowling balls back on the rack. Now we can bowl again, so let's drop these pins down, and then we can lift that up and grab our bowling ball. And we got a strike. Now we can move these pins and sweep. Here we can see that the pins sit up here until they are brought down and that gear is spun. That moves those tiles out of the way so then they can fall down. And then, once the pin setter goes on top of the pins, that clamp goes on and they are picked up. Then it can go down and release that clamp to drop them. If we move this pin out of the way, then we can use the sweep. Now let's get into the tutorial. Let's start out with the bowling pins. Beginning with the 2x2 cone, we're going to stick a 3 stud long axle into it and flip it upside down. And then a 2 block tall cone. Then we're going to take a red dot, then a white one, then a white mini figurehead. Now we're going to take a round 1x1 tile and put it on the bottom. After doing that 6 times, you have your pins. And like a lot of you, I don't have all the pieces, so I used other tiles and other pieces to make them. And if you really don't have any of those pieces, we can use bowling pins like this, which uses much more common pieces. We're going to start out with 2 of the dots stacked vertically, and then a round 2x2 plate, a round 2x2 brick, and another round 2x2 brick. Then we're going to take a round 1x1 brick, and then a mini figurehead on top. These pins work just as well as the other ones. Now that we have our pins, let's begin the bowling alley. Start out with either a 16x32 base plate or two 16x16 and put them next to each other. Then take 2 stacked 2x6s and place them in the center. That way, on mine, it joins them together with 5 studs on each side. Now place a 1x4 brick in the center on the edge, and then some Technic pieces there and there, then a 1x6 and a 1x8. Those Technic pieces can be any length, you just need that technical and that technical. Now we're going to flip it to here and place a 1x2 there, a 1x2 there, and now use any bricks to make a line of bricks 1 wide all the way down. So I'm using a 1x6, a 1x6, a 1x6, and a 1x4, and then 2 more 1x4s. Then I'm going to flip it around and do the same thing. Once that's done, we're going to use a 2x6 here and a 2x6 here. So that's centered and we have 1 stud and 1 stud. And then we're going to use some more bricks, really any brick, just to make a 2 high brick wall. To make a 2 high, 2 by, way over here, long wall. To continue that until we get to here, which in the center of this base plate, we're going to use a 2x8 and a 2x6. This leaves 7 studs right here. So if I continue that, and then continue some more, I'm then using a 2x3, so that way it's over the first stud, but we still have that second stud. Let's do the same thing on this side. After that, we can use a 1x4 and another 1x4 there. And then we're going to use some I'm using 2x8s and 2x6s, but you can use whatever bricks to make that line all the way to here. So I'm going to continue that to right there. Now let's do that on this side. So now let's build up over here. I'm going to use 1x4s to build up this 2 layers. Like so. And then the same thing over here, 1x4, 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 1x4. Now I'm going to use a 1x2 there and a 1x2 here. Flip it to here and let's build up this rail. So I'm using a 1x6, a 1x8, a 1x10, and then a 1x8, a 1x8, and a 1x8. But you can use whatever you'd like. Now if we flip it back around real quick, we're going to use a 1x8 and a 1x6 there. And now we're going to build our lane. So the lane looks like this, but on the underside it has pieces like this, so that way it can't move around. So let's scoot this aside real quick. So starting off with a 1x2, then another 1x2, and a 1x6, or whatever bricks you have. I'm then going to use 2 more 1x2s, and then I built this so that way I have pieces sticking down one stud. You can of course build this however you need to, but I'm going to use this elbow piece, and then a 1x2, then another elbow piece, another 1x2, and a 1x2 here. Then to connect that all together, a 1x6 and a 1x2. Long story short, we have a 1x10 area with 1x2 sticking out there, which you could just use 2x2 bricks. And then I'm going to stack more blocks there to make this 2 blocks tall. Again, could use a 2x2 or whatever you have in your collection there. Now build this up 15 layers. I'm just using these 1x2x5s and these 1x5 or 1x6 panels. Now that I added those 15 layers, we're going to add one more layer real quick. I'm going to use a 1x6 brick right here, then a 2x4, a 1x2, 2 stacked 1x2 bricks, and then we can see here that it needs one more layer. So I'm actually going to switch this out like so, move these 2 stacked 1x2s and a 1x6 on top. So we have a total of 21 layers and it's 1x10. And then I just have these pieces sticking out, so then when we set this down, it won't move around. If we take a look here, we can see that when I set this down, if I place a 1x2 here, and then a 2x4 brick here, then these pieces will be right around that brick, so it can't move around. And then, like we did down here to make sure that's locked in, I now have this 2x4 brick, so I'm going to use 2 stacked 1x4s right there, and I'm just going to use 2 stacked 2x6s here. Now, that piece, if I remove this, you can see that it fits into that slot. So if I put this back and set that down, now the lane is stuck in place. Now I'm going to use 2x4 tiles for the gutters, and that's going to go all the way along here. Then if I flip it around, we're going to do the same thing going that way. And 6. So I'm going to push those down to make sure they're flat, and those act as our gutter. I left these 2 pieces without tiles, so that way when the ball is there, it would roll down in case the sweep can't make it all the way, but you could tile those if you wish. Next, we're going to take 2 pin to axle pins right here, in there, and then take 2 4 stud long axles, and take these Technic pieces here and here, slide them to about there and there, and now that's going to go on the front right here, and that will hold the bowling balls. Now I'm going to place on another layer right here of bricks, starting off with a 1x8, 1x6, a 1x4, and then another 1x8 and a 1x4. Flipping it to this side, we're doing the same thing using any bricks that would cover it up. So a 1x6, and then a 1x4, a 1x6, 1x4, a 1x6, a 1x4. Now I'm going to use a 1x8 tile there, and a 1x8 tile there, then a 1x4 there, and a 1x4 here. You can sub those out for anything you need. Then skip 2 studs. We need another 8 studs of tile on both sides. Then we're going to use a 1x2 there and a 1x2 here as well. Now we're going to flip it to the back side and build the cover. To do so, start out with either a 1x2 Technic brick with 2 holes and insert 2 pins into it, or use a 1x2 brick with the studs already on the side. Now stack 3 1x2 bricks, and we need to make a 4x14 panel. To do so, I'm going to use a 4x10 and then a 4x4, and on the back side I'm going to connect them like this, where we have another 4x4 with 2 studs on that side, and then to match it I'm just going to place one here. So I have 2 studs, 2 studs, 2 studs. And then on the front I'm going to use a 2x8 for the handle. And we can see that that clicks into place where these holes go on those studs. So let's begin the case. Start with a 1x8 here, a 1x8 here, a 1x8 here, and we'll just go 1x6 there. You can again sub those out for whatever suits your collection the best. Now we're going to build up this back wall with a 1x8 and 1x8. And then we're going to build these, which are mirrored of each other. Start out with a 1x6 plate, then a 1x2 Technic brick with a center hole, a 1x4, a 1x6, a 1x6, a 1x4, another one of those Technic bricks, and then 2 stacked 1x6 plates. Once you have 2 of those, flip one on its back, so the holes are that way, and insert 2 of the frictionless Technic pins, so that way the Pinsetter can move up and down with ease. And then once we have these, we're going to take a bowling alley and place them here and here, like so. So we have a 1 stud gap there and a 1 stud gap over there, and the Technic pins are that way. Now I'm taking a 1x2 and a 1x2, and we're just going to build up these walls. So 1x8, 1x6, 2 1x8s, 2 more 1x2s, 1x8, 1x6, 2 more 1x8s, and then I'm going to use a 1x6 here and a 1x6 here. Notice that those don't connect to that back wall at all. So we're going to build that back wall up one more time with 2 more 1x8s. Then we'll connect them on with a 1x6 here and a 1x6 here. Back here we're going to use another 1x8 and 1x6. Then 1x4s here. So making a little stair step pattern. Then 1x8s are going to go on top. 1x4s to continue that little pattern. 1x8, 1x6. And then another 1x8 and one more 1x8. So we have a total of 11 layers of blue bricks. Now we're going to flip it over here and make some pillars. Stack together 7 1x2 bricks, and they're going to go right there. Upon doing that twice, we now have those pillars. Now take a 1x2 Technic brick with 2 holes in it, and one of these pins to slide through. That way there's a handle to move it out. Upon doing it on this side as well, to where our pins are on this side, we can now take a 1x2 and a 1x2 over here. Then we're going to use a 1x8 on top and a 1x8 on top over here. Now use a 1x8 there and a 1x8 here. And then 1x3s are going to go on the sides right there. Now take a 1x6 here and a 1x8 here, So now we have a complete wall. And after doing that on both sides, now we can connect it all together. Starting out with a 1x8 here, and I'm gonna have mine stick out a stud like so. Then one more over here. Now we can use some more 1x8s right there and right over there. And then 1x4s go on there. Now let's flip it over here and connect these together. So we're going to use a 1x4, then a 1x8 and a 1x2, or if you have a 1x6. And then I'm going to use two 1x8s on top. Now on the side here, I'm going to use another 1x8 and another 1x8 there. Flipping it to the back here, I'm going to use a 2x4, a 2x4, and a 2x6, and then a 2x4, a 2x4, and two more 2x4 bricks. Now I'm going to finish it off with two more 1x8 bricks. And again, that's a lot of 1x8s and stuff like that, so of course feel free to substitute with anything that fits your collection better. So now it's time to build the Pinsetter. I'm going to flip it over and we'll build from the bottom up. Starting off with the front, use a 1x6 brick and then a 1x2 with the central Technic hole. Then grab a Technic pin with the axle attachment and a full bushing. That's going to go right there. Then after that, we're going to grab two 1x6 bricks and those will go there. But first we need a 1x2 here and a 1x2 here. Then we can put those right there. I'm going to temporarily flip this around here so we can see a little better. Now we can use a 2x4 there and a 2x4 here, and then a 1x6 and a 1x2. Now take a 2x2 and a 2x4 tile on top and repeat that for 3 of those. Now we're going to take one, place it right there, and then we're going to place the other ones back here once we connect on two more 1x6 bricks there and there. These will go here and here. So from the bottom, it looks like this. If you don't have the 2x4 tiles, you can use 1x4s or whatever works, either 2x2s, 1x4s, 1x2s, whatever tiles work for your collection. Now take a 2x6, a 1x2 tile, mine has the grooves in it, but it can be smooth. Then use a 1x2 brick and a 1x6 brick. And then just mirror that like so. And these will go right here, so they connect like that. If we flip it over, it looks like this. Now we're going to set two 2x3 bricks right here and right here. We'll connect these on with two 1x6 bricks, one here and one there, and support them with a 2x4 there and a 2x4 here. Now let's build this. This is a piece that slides forward to be able to hold the pins. Start out with two 1x6 plates, and then place two 1x6 tiles on the center, so there's 3 studs on each side. Connect these together with a 1x2 tile or 1x2 plate right there. Now two 2x4 plates here and here, and then we need tiles on the top here. You can either use 1x2s or 2x2s, whatever works for you. Now use a 2x4 plate, a 1x6 tile, a 2x2 tile, and a 1x2 tile, or whatever tiles will support it the best for your collection. One of the issues that when you're building you need to avoid is this joint here. When the rubber bands pull on this, we can see that this one can kind of move. By using the 1x6 tiles, we eliminate that the most by having it be connected a lot. If you sub that out for, let's say, a bunch of 1x2s, it would not be as strong. So I highly recommend using two 1x6s there if you have them. Or else it may not be able to drop your pins or pick them up as strongly. So we're going to set that in place, and here we can see we have 6 2x2 holes open. slide this forward, and now they're closed halfway. Slide that back, and they're all the way open. So we're going to slide this back like so, and then we're going to take a 1x6 Technic piece right there, then a frictionless pin, and a 7-stud long Technic lift arm. Once you have that like that, place a 1x4 on the left side there. Once you have that, do it on the other side, but flip it to where this is on this side, and that's on our right side. Next up, use a 2x4, then a 2x2, and a 2x4. Then over here, we're going to use a 2x2, a 2x2, and a 2x4. Then a 2x4, and one more 2x4. So as you can see, we still have those 3 holes. Now, let's do the front here. In order to have a piece here, we need to build this out of plates, so that way we can connect it on. Start out with a 1x6, then a 1x2, a 1x2, a 2x3, a 2x2 on the bottom, 1x6 on top, and a 2x2 on top. So we have this pyramid shaped piece, which is a brick tall because it's 3 layers of plates. We're going to set that right there for now, and then we're going to use a 2x3 right there, a 2x3 right there, and then we're going to use a 2x2 here, another 2x2 right there, and then we're just going to stack a 2x4 there, another 2x4 there, and a 1x6 right here. So that way we can then use a 2x4, and then we'll stack one more 2x4, another 2x4, one more 2x4, and finally a last 2x4 brick. So if we're looking at it here, we have 6 2x2 holes, and then when we slide this, we have 6 1x2 holes because this is in the way of those back studs. To support this all, we're going to flip it to the bottom here, and I'm going to use some 2x4 plates. And we're going to put those on all of the cross sections like so. And after putting on these last 2, I'm now going to use a 1x10 plate right there. Or you can use a 1x6 and 1x4, whatever works for you. Double checking that we still have our holes all open and everything's looking good. Now we can build this, which it looks difficult, but it's not too bad. We'll start it off pretty simple with just the Technic pieces. Start with the 1x10 with all the Technic holes, and then on the 4th hole from the right, we're going to put a Technic pin there. So we have 3 open right there. Now we're going to take a frictionless pin. It's going to go in that last one there, and another 7-stud lift arm right there. Now use a 4-stud long axle with a stopper on it, so that way we can't pull it out. Then we're going to use a half bushing, then a 4-stud lift arm, which has the little elbow, another half bushing, and then I'm going to use this gear as the handle. If you don't have these gears, you can just swap it out for any other gear, or whatever would let you be able to twist this with some torque. Now we're going to insert this 4-stud long axle with a stopper and set this here for now. For the other side, we're going to start with another 1x10 Technic brick with all the holes and insert a stopper 1x4 axle there and another one right there. So if I hold those and flip it around here, insert a Technic pin in that hole, and then we're going to use a bushing, a half bushing right there, another Technic lift arm that's 4-stud long with the extra one there, and then another half bushing and that gear as the handle. Now what we can do is I'm going to set this up, and we're going to place them right here and right on over here. And I almost forgot, but we need to use another frictionless pin and a 7 long lift arm, and that gets connected on to that stud right there, to that hole right there. So from the bottom it looks like this, where this hangs off by 2. We're going to take this Technic piece, and it's going to go on the axle here, making sure we're holding that axle so it goes all the way through. And then we're going to use another one right over here. Now take a 6 stud long axle, insert a full bushing, and then an axle connector, and we're going to insert that into our Technic piece there. After doing that on both sides, it looks like this. Now we're going to build the little sweep. So we're going to start with a 3 stud long axle. We're going to start with a 3 stud long axle and a half bushing that's going to go on the axle like so. And then we're going to take another one of these Technic pieces, and this axle is going to slide all the way through. And we're going to connect it here. Make sure we're pushing that axle all the way up into that piece so there's about a half bushing left on the bottom. That way it can go into the gutters. After we duplicate that on this side, it looks like this. Now take two 6 stud long axles and connect them together with an axle connector. And that's going to go into that one and into that one. So now a sweep looks like this. Now take 2 full bushings and we're going to slide them onto the axles, making sure the axles are still flush on that wall so they stick out. So like that, and over here it's like that. Now I'm going to connect on 2 more gears as handles. And again, if you don't have these gears, use any gear or any sort of piece that would allow you to have a hold on it so you can spin them. Now what we need to do is take the rubber band, but first we're going to flip that down and we're going to move that out of the way slightly. But grab the rubber band, go around that plate and connect it to the front like so. So it's going over that piece, connect it here and connect it on our plate, and then just scoot it back all the way to there, but not adding friction onto those pieces. So that's a little too far. We really want it over top of that stud right about there. That's perfect. Now when I rotate this, it pushes on it back, but right now it's not pulling it forward. So we're just going to kind of move this around a little bit so that way there's not too much friction, so that way it can easily pull it back forward. Now let's do the same on the other side. We're going to take a rubber band, go across there, over there, and connect it to the front. If you have rubber bands that are much shorter or longer, you can wrap them all the way around or put a pin there, connect them there, whatever works for you. I'm using normal generic rubber bands and they fit perfectly to go from there to there. So now I'm going to move that rubber band to that stud like so. Now we can see that when I rotate these gears, it pulls that back, and when I release them, it pushes them back forward. The rubber band pulls them forward. And then when I rotate these gears, it does the pin sweep. So now let's take this and we're going to temporarily just take off the roof so it's a little easier to install. Each one of these lift arms is going to connect to one of the frictionless pins that we put in, which the bottom and top will connect respectively to those. I'm going to remove these pillars as well, so it's a little easier. So if we move these and kind of bend them just slightly, we can then get them connected onto their pins. So the beams connect onto the pins like so. Here we can see on a Pinsetter is spaced apart by 2 blocks, and so are these. So when we lift this up, it stays flush. So now if we lift this up, we can also see, I'm going to remove that gear to see, but that sits on top of there. And if we move this up, it goes up and sits on top of there on both sides. Like that. So I'm going to put this gear back on, and these pillars are going to go back on. We're going to flip this down to rest on those pins, and put this roof right back on. Like so. To give it a test, we can see that it moves down and back up, and our pin sweep doesn't get caught on these pins because we have that bushing there and there. And this gets held on that brick. If it's not going up all the way, this piece may be getting caught on that, so just give it a slight shimmy to get it on top of those pieces. Now flip the bowling alley around, remove this panel, and you can get all your bowling pins out and the bowling balls. You can also just tilt it so they all fall out. With that, our bowling alley is now done. So we can take our 2 bowling balls, put them on the rack, and then once you load all the bowling pins up here, you can then drop down the pinsetter by just taking it off of those bricks while you don't apply any pressure. So don't spin these that way, just keep them down. Drop that down, and then you can release the clamp so it drops all your pins. Keep it released, bring it all the way up. Then you can release that pressure. Now we'll get a bowl. Almost a strike. And then we'll get that off the bricks. Apply that pressure so that clamp is released so that way it can pick up the pins. It's then going to drop down. Now release that pressure so the clamp is on that pin. Once it's clamping onto the pin, bring it all the way up. Now move these two pins out of the way and it can sweep the playing field. Once that is swept, we're going to move these pins back in, and with the lane clear, we can drop that down with the clamp still on, so don't apply any pressure that way. Drop that all the way down, then release your clamp, lift up, then release that pressure, put it on that brick. Now we can bowl again. And I got it. And if you wanted to, you could sweep again.